Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 19 of The Cosmic Force. My name is Tyler Reganti, and on tonight's show, we have huge news to discuss regarding a new miniseries coming this November from the mind of Charles Soule, which is great because we're also going to take a deep dive into the history of Charles Soule in Star Wars comics. It's an interesting story that once everybody gets introduced, we'll give you a little bit of behind the scenes access there. But first, let's go ahead and introduce everybody tonight. And we start where we always do with Emma. Hello, Emma. How are you? You said you had some fun things for your open tonight.
I do. So first of all, I'm going to try to describe this as well as I can for our audio listeners. So I usually have purple lights on in the back. I have changed them to red. I wonder why that is. Second of all, my girl Kira's back. She's back.
Oh, awesome.
I know. So, yeah, the news today was a real highlight of the day. I'm excited. I am ready. And we have a lot of synergy going on today.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. I also chose a red background and a red shirt. Hopefully I don't blend. Luckily we don't have a green screen for probably a similar reason to you, Emma. And I also feel that Caleb has chosen blue for the exact to balance us in the Force. Am I correct there?
Yes, and blue is my favorite color. It is a pink shirt. It's a little hard to show up, but I do have a little bit of dark side here for those. This is tie number 2 that was sent to me, and it is very clearly a Darth Vader tie. So it's got kind of Impact Vader symbols all over it. It's a really nice one. It's kind of a nice Friday sort of thing. It's a really nice tie. So stay tuned for tie number 3 coming in probably next week. So yeah, no, things are going really well here. I am super excited for this next episode here. I had no idea, like when we were throwing ideas, that this was going to be so timely that the day we're doing a Charles Soule episode, he announces then part 2 of this like huge thing he's got going on. Right. So I could not be more pleased.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's hilarious how this came about to be. But before we get into that, let's go over to the other light side user tonight, and that is Jacob. Feeding and needing the positivity of the light side of the Force to get you through your first week of law school.
Indeed I do. Yeah, I didn't. It's really fun to have to read a bunch for school, and every page you read takes you like 10 minutes. Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. It's, it's an adjustment, but with the help of the light side, and I honestly chose blue because Caleb did, and I wanted to have something matching. We look like freaking 3D glasses up here, but yeah.
Well, it'd be a little better if we swapped it, the other way. So
when we talk about Star Wars and I see the colors red and blue, my absolute first thought is 3D glasses for when I saw them for when you go to the movies. Absolutely. So
didn't they used to give that out for like one of the shows or the rides? Star Tours.
Star Tours.
Yeah, I think Star Tours
Star Tours.
They used to have 3D glasses.
Those glasses are a little bit more high tech now. They're not red and blue, but those used to be something that they gave out. If you are joining us for the first time, welcome. We promise we don't talk about the 3D glasses all the time. We actually talk about Star Wars comics, and tonight is a very, very fun night for us. We broadcast live right here on youtube.com/utini every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. And if you can't join us live, that's okay. Our videos are available here on this channel whenever you have the time to view us. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and know when we have new content. We are also on all of your favorite podcast platforms. So you can also check us out in audio form. We're a part of the larger Utini podcast network of nearly a dozen shows and a Discord channel at utini.com/Discord with more than 1,000 members with dozens of channels to choose from. And it's days like today that I really cannot stress enough how much fun it is to join our Discord, because as soon as this news dropped that we'll get to, everybody in the Discord was having fun, and they were throwing out different predictions and commenting, and it is so much fun to see a positive community the way that we have. So I really encourage you to join us at utini.com/discord and join us in those amazing conversations. And if you like what you see and want to say thanks, then head on over to our Patreon channel at patreon.com/utini, where for as little as $5 a month, you can gain exclusive access to the entire Utini podcast network of shows, as well as exclusive merch and community activities, which includes this Friday. So in 2 days, there is still time for you to sign up. We are having our trivia night with hosts from the Living Force, hosted by our own Timothy. There will more than likely be some alcohol. There will be lots of trivia questions, and there will, I believe Corey said there will be hats, right?
Yes.
He did.
That was a guarantee.
He confirmed that.
He confirmed
and
there were
also, I
hats.
sent in a few trivia questions of my own via video, and you're gonna want to watch those.
Ooh, a
I'm just
video
saying.
Right.
daily double.
And
So there's still time to join our Patreon channel and enjoy. Our Patreon events are so much fun. So I
And
really
that
encourage
is what day? One more time.
That is this Friday. Do we have a time for that? I think it's usually like 8 o'clock.
That sounds right.
I don't think that they have announced an official time, but
Okay.
I would guess it would be around the same time as
Yes.
as the normal show. Yeah.
All right. So yes, if you, like I said, they're lots of fun. Definitely would suggest you join in so you can be a part of the fun. So before we get into the news of the day, I kind of want to, like I said, I want to kind of take you back to last week. We kind of made a mistake last week because we didn't announce what this week's show was going to be. And this week's show was supposed to be, which is actually what we're going to be doing next week, was supposed to be a roundtable of the Mutiny at Mancala, which is Star Wars 2015 trade paperback number 8. But seeing as we didn't make that announcement, we didn't let any of you know that that's what you guys wanted to be reading. And we always encourage you all to read so you can join along. We made a decision to kind of on the fly that kind of like, well, what are we going to do? What's something that's easy to do? And we said, well, let's just fill it in. Let's fill in with like Charles Soule. Let's do an artist spotlight or a creative spotlight on Charles Soule. And as we said on Twitter, it's the force works in mysterious ways sometimes, because we have news coming from Charles Soule that we'll get to in just a moment, because I don't want to bury this. We have 2 pieces of news. Jacob's got an image up there in the on the preview that he's going to bring over, and I will let you go ahead and take this announcement, Jacob, and
oh boy,
tell everybody what this is.
Yeah, so this was announced yesterday. We're getting a special one-shot, the Star Wars Life Day #1, with stories from Kevin Scott, Justina Ireland, Jody Hauser, and Steve Orlando. I mean, it looks fabulous. You got the lovely Wookiee red robes from the original holiday special, but that'll be coming out pretty soon. I think. Did they have a
September.
date on?
I think sorry, November.
It said November. I don't recall seeing an actual date, but
okay, yeah, that would make sense with like solicitation timelines. But yeah, super cool. Jody Hauser did a lot of the like Age of comic books, so I think this is one of her. It's the first time in a while I think she's been writing for Star Wars comics. But Steve Orlando, I don't recognize that name. So maybe we have a first-time writer coming to us, but obviously, we're all familiar with Kevin Scott and Justina Ireland, and High Republic authors, which of course we got to mention that Buryaga is going to be making an appearance.
Furry.
So, yeah.
Hopefully, Lumpy will too. That's all
exactly.
I'm saying.
Yes, Justina Ireland actually gave in a quote for on StarWars.com said, "I'm really excited to have a chance to tell a Life Day story about the furriest Padawan around," and of course she's talking about Buryaga. So I think everybody loves more High Republic, and to bring something like Life Day into the High Republic is great, and then to throw in Buryaga as well, that's just kind of icing on the cake there. So look out for that in November. So Emma, I think that's really the highlight of the news section this week. But we had this other news piece of news here, so I'm going to let you kick us off here and read this. And what exactly was all the hoopla about today?
Yeah, just a small piece of news here. Very very minimal. Not a big deal at all. No, I'm just joking with you. This is Crimson Reign, REIGN for our audio listeners. This is going to be a limited series debuting also in November, so big month for comics, and will consist of 5 issues, all written by our guy, Charles Soule, who is obviously a Star Wars veteran, not just comics, but also books. This was an IGN exclusive here, and he spoke to IGN and hinted at what fans can expect from Crimson Reign, which will focus, as you can tell by the cover here, on Crimson Dawn and specifically Kira. In a quote here, he says, "I plan to tell the story we're seeing in War of the Bounty Hunters from the very first pitches I wrote when I knew we'd be taking over the Star Wars title for Marvel," Soule said. "But it was really when I knew I had a secret weapon to deploy story-wise that the seeds of Crimson Reign began to take root in my mind." So to me, it's like really cool. He's been planning this out for a pretty long time. And, if there's anything, I mean, I know that there's been a lot of discussion, like, where is this Kira story going to go? Are we just going to sort of see her in War of the Bounty Hunters and then is that it? And of course, leave it to Charles Soule to be able to finish off like a really awesome story. So we have another quote from him here. He says, quote, "While Kira plays a huge part in War of the Bounty Hunters, that event is really a Boba Fett story. I have a bigger story I'm going to tell with Kira in Crimson Dawn, and it's all connected to the reasons she kicked things off in War of the Bounty Hunters in the first place. You'll learn more about that in the closing pages of War of the Bounty Hunters number 5, and I think fans have no idea how exciting and new this story will feel." So that sentence got me really hyped up. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, that's the
Mhm.
part that I was like, okay, that's because he has been teasing. He has been. I believe he said something like, "You guys don't even realize what everything is, the breadcrumbs that we're laying here." And yeah, it was that quote about how fans have no idea how exciting and new the story will feel. That I was like, all right, let's go. This is going to be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So one more quote here from him. He says, quote, "From the moment I took the gig writing Star Wars, I wanted to do new things in the Star Wars timeline between episodes 5 and 6, using new characters from all eras of the galaxy far, far away. Crimson Reign, which continues what I plan as a trilogy that began with
Another
War
key
of the
word.
Bounty Hunters, is a great example of how I like to write Star Wars stories. Everything and everyone is fair game, and I think people are really going to enjoy it. Await the rain." So, keyword trilogy.
Mhm.
What do you guys think? And I'm going to start with Jacob here. What do you think is going to be the last piece in this? We've got Boba Fett, we've got Kira. Do you think it's going to focus on a singular character or an entity or something else? What do you think?
They always talked about like the thing that pops out to me the most was all the talk about the potential like solo sequel projects and how they'd have like a story focused on Kira and a story focusing on Lando. And I think Lando might be a good person for him to wrap it up with. You got like some of these main like ancillary characters in that timeline. And we already know that Charles Soule loves Lando with writing the Lando miniseries, which we might talk about a little bit today. I think for his, he's planted seeds with him in the beginning of his 2020 run. I think it would be good to wrap that up and like kind of complete that character arc leading up to the Return of the Jedi with a little like maybe a little mini series detailing like his like kind of final split from the criminal underworld.
Yeah, I like that thought. Caleb, do you have anything?
Like if he wasn't already dead at this point in the timeline, one would think this would be an interesting time to do some more stuff with Darth Maul, since he was also heavily involved with the Crimson, Dawn and getting started. So maybe we'll in the Crimson Reign here we'll get some flashbacks to see what happened and why when we see him in Star Wars Rebels, he's pretty much on an extreme downward trend. He's Maul is no longer in charge of this criminal underworld. So I think we'll be seeing some of that teased out there. Other than that, I have no idea. Like this series started with War of the Bounty Hunters, which is a Boba Fett series, and we're going to be doing a Kira series. Yeah, I have some show notes here later on that it quite easily could end up doing a Lando series. Lando is Soule's favorite character, so maybe it will end with the trilogy of a Lando. I don't know.
I think what's interesting here is there were two key things that he said in that last quote that Emma read. And he said he was excited about to do things between episode 5 and episode 6. So all of this and the fact that it's a trilogy, you would imagine all 3 of these little books are still going to lead us are still going to be before Return of the Jedi. So that is what I think is most intriguing. Now, I agree with you, Caleb, but there's probably going to be some flashbacks. There's some things that happened in today's issue of War of the Bounty Hunters that definitely makes you want to know some backstory. Kira is able to definitely hold her own,
not die instantly.
Hold her own in the situations that she finds herself in, and it's very interesting to want to determine how she got there and why she's able to do that. So I'm excited. We've said this before. We said this when we were talking about the High Republic. Knowing that they have a plan and knowing it seems like he has a full plan and knows how this is going to end, that is, as a Star Wars fan, one of the most exciting things that I can hear, is because we know that there's thought put into it. We know that there is, respect for the title, and it's going to be awesome to see. And I cannot wait for November to see this thing kick off.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I mean, there's just so many like well thought out stories happening right now that we're in the middle of. We've got the High Republic in its entirety, and now this sort of War of the Bounty Hunters, Crimson Reign, TBD type of trilogy going on here. And I'm just so excited. But I'll give you my quick prediction here. I'm very intrigued that Ren was on the cover.
Yes.
And
can
I honestly
we put that cover up, Jacob?
Yeah, so he's back. For those of you watching on this picture here, he's in the top right, below Vader, with the mask on. Although I guess pretty much like half of them are wearing masks, but he's in the as they should. Good job, guys. But yeah, he's wearing the white mask with like the red pattern. I honestly think that we're gonna get something with like furthering the story of the Knights of Ren. Like, did they come from like working with syndicates or something like that? I think we might get something more of like an underworld transitioning to like a Sith type of thing. I'm not sure, but whatever it is. I mean, Charles Soule, he's gonna nail it, and I'm really looking forward to this. And it feels almost like sacrilege to be speculating about the third one right now, and we haven't even gotten the second one, and we haven't even finished the first one, because they're all, the War of the Bounty Hunters is amazing, and I'm sure this is going to be amazing too. So yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to it.
This cover gives me the most what is going on. Like, there's TIE defenders in the background, there's Chen Char there in the foreground, there's Ren, there's
Foot Clan. There's a Foot Clan ninja from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
right.
Is her name like Deathstick, I think?
Yes,
like,
Deathstick.
yes,
I was searching for the name. Luke and Han's jacket from Solo? ?
Right,
well,
right.
And Lando was already wearing Han's jacket before, so
That's right,
I guess it's just passing around.
And it led to a lot of questions in the Discord of, is this going to be another crossover? Even though I haven't seen anything that suggests that, but you would almost think that there's going to be some sort of relationship, because you've got I could almost see Deathstick sticking around in the Bounty Hunters book. And if you include that, you have all four of the main books again represented on this cover. So it leads to a lot of questions here as to how. I know it's just a miniseries, and they're saying miniseries, they're not saying crossover event, but there's a lot going on in this cover that I don't even think we can fully comprehend yet.
Yeah, for sure. And the last thing I want to quickly mention on my end is that the font they use for Crimson Reign, for some reason, it's giving me major Legends vibes. I don't know if I had anybody else, but it was just this weird thing that came to my mind.
Yeah, no, I totally see that. Yeah, the great cover here. And we have this variant from Steve Cummings, and then a wonderful connecting cover, which of course we only get one piece of it, but this is by our show favorite Ariel Anandito is doing this one.
Nice.
And I mean, obviously looks like the Emperor's throne room in the background, kind of. So yeah, I'm excited to see what the rest of those panels will look like.
Absolutely.
But if you want to learn any more about this event, our very own Meg Dow, always like quick on the gun with the news summaries. You can find the link to this article down in the description. And go check out more on this super exciting event coming up.
All right. Well, Unfortunately, those books aren't coming out until November, but we did actually have 2 new books come out today. So Jacob, why don't you tell
Try
everybody
4.
what is in the
Double that, my friend.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I got lost in the there are 4 new books in the weekly pull list this week. 2
Yeah.
I didn't even realize, because once I saw the Crimson Rain announcement, everything else just got lost to me. So 4 books. Go ahead, Jacob, and tell me what they are this week.
Yeah, so shout outs to Emma for doing this write up, because I was very busy this week. But yeah, number 1 is War of the Bounty Hunters. Number 3, The Crimson Blade, written by Charles Soule, with pencils by Luke Ross, with David Messina, cover from Steve McNiven and Frank de Armada, and colorist Niraj Menon and Guru EFX, with the letters from Travis Lanham. We have, of course, Star Wars 16, Missing in Action, also written by Charles Soule. Pencils from Roman Rosanas, cover from Carlo Pagulayan, Jason Paz, and Rain Barreto, with colorist Rochelle Rosenberg, and letters from Clayton Cowles. High Republic Adventures number 7. Oh, that's the wrong one. High Republic Adventures, The Princess and the Bog, A Twin Tale Part 2, and Tales of Villainy, Trade Relations, written by Sam Maggs, Danny Lore, pencils by Liana Congas and Ariana Florine, and cover from Francisco Francavilla, and of course, last but not least, High Republic Adventures number 7, Mission to Bilbosa Part 2, written by Daniel Jose Older, art and cover by Harvey Tolabau, colors from Rebecca Nolte, and letter Jake Wood. That was a mouthful, folks, but those are your 4 comic books today. Of course, all links to those can be found in the description down below, as always, if you want to pick them up on Comixology. And for the War of the Bounty Hunters fans at home, I would personally recommend reading War of the Bounty Hunters number 3 before Star Wars 16, but I really don't think you can really go wrong either way.
I would agree.
I back you up on that. Yeah. Luckily, I think it was Tyler had read him before I did, and said read Bounty Hunters first, or War of the Bounty Hunters first, before Star Wars 16, and I was glad for that advice. So thank you, sir.
You're quite welcome. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. It's not nearly as much of an overlap as we've seen in the past, but I think you get more appreciation for the end of Star Wars 16 if you read War of the Bounty Hunters 3 first. So
totally agree.
All right, let's move on to what we are loving this week and our art of the week. And my art of the week is from our brand new title from last week. That is Monster of Temple Peak. Number 1, of course, the writer is Kevin Scott, and the pencils and ink are Rachel Stott with a T, no relation. And I thought this was a really cool, like, just a full page look at our ex-Jedi mercenary Ty York. And I love the brightness. I loved how Ty just pops off the page. The name is awesome. What you can't go wrong with more Ty York. So it was a pretty easy choice for me this week to pick this. Emma, I see that you're also staying with the High Republic era. What do you have this week?
Yeah, I gotta stick with some High Republic this week. High Republic Adventures number 6, art by Harvey Tolabau and Pau Rodrigues. And what more is there to say than it's court hugging Geode? Like, it's a dream come true. It's amazing. And also, honestly, I don't know if I just wasn't paying attention before, but this issue was the first time I noticed that Court is it kind of looks like he's wearing a mask on top of his real face.
Yes.
Is that true?
I didn't notice that either until it was called out in the book. So you're not alone.
Got you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sure that's why they specifically wrote out. By the way, that's not his actual face.
No, it's everyone's freaking out because his mask looks like it was a Darth Krait's helmet or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right.
And there was
goodness.
also an Easter egg. It's in I think it's Dr. Afra 38 or something like that. The issue where she's talking to the propaganda minister. It's they go through a museum and it's just sitting in a display case.
Oh my God. Okay, I gotta go back and read that. So wow, my mind is blown. We've got some geodes, some quartz, some Easter eggs. It's a good art of the week this week. So, Caleb, what do you have?
Well, this is not the High Republic. This is the Old Republic. I totally blame Jacob here for reminding me that the Old Republic series existed. I'm going back and rereading that after years and years, and my lord, is this like some of the best long form Star Wars content out there. This is really good stuff. So comes from issue number 7, art by Dustin Weaver. And man, like this is just like fun because if you love Mandalorians, you get to see them at their apex here. So you see our poor protagonist there being completely surrounded and about to be taken down by just an absolute load of Mandalorians who with each with like unique armor and weaponry. It's just a good time. Like if you're wanting to like sit down and read a like long form 50 issue story, I'm ashamed to admit I almost forgot about it, but hands down, you need to read this series 100%. And then let's see here, we have a community art at this mission, right?
Yes,
That's correct.
Yeah.
This one comes from Moonflyer. Congratulations, it's posted in our Discord. So, thank you, Dave, for the submission. This looks really good. And again, we're keeping with the kind of the Republic thing. This is from the High Republic, issue number 4. Yeah, 4, with art by Ario Onadito. This is just really good stuff of where you get to see this is what the High Republic is really about. It's seeing Jedi in action at the point of their power, just doing really cool stuff. Like as they're kind of cutting their way out of I think the Dengar tomb here, and just about to do some really heavy duty weed eating here.
Yeah, no, this is sick. I always love seeing lightsabers drawn in a darker environment where they just like totally stand out. And oh my gosh, it's really, really cool. And I love the smoke here. Yeah, he did a good job.
All right. Well, as Caleb said, you can all make sure to submit your art of the week submission in either our Discord channel or by tweeting us at Cosmic Force Show to get, and we will possibly choose your art and you would get a free comic code. So, all right, let's go ahead and take a quick break. We're going to go to our merch break for a second, and then when we come back, we are going to get in the very long and very storied history of Charles Soule in Star Wars comics. So we'll be right back. All right, and we are back, and like I said, tonight's episode is all about Charles Soule, and if he's not the godfather of modern Star Wars writing, he's definitely in the first family because he has really, really just continued to give us a number of just not just a quantity, which Emma you're gonna get into in just a moment, but every single one of his books leaves a very, very huge impact on the Star Wars universe as a whole. So Emma, why don't you go ahead and give us kind of a rundown? I mean, it's hard to believe that we're going on 6+ years of him giving us content, but yeah, it's just every piece is just an amazing, it keeps getting better.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you pick up a book and it says written by Charles Soule, I mean, it's going to be good. That's for sure. So I'm going to go through his all of his works in Star Wars comics. There's quite a list of them. So let's start. First up, we've got Lando, which was written in 2015. To sum it up, basically, it's a heist that goes wrong, as it usually does in Star Wars, starring
And
Lando,
heist
of
movies.
course, and heist movies. Yes. So yeah, we've got Lando as the star. We've also got Lobot, and yeah, some pretty cool settings as well. Emperor Palpatine's pleasure yacht is the subject of the heist, which is really fascinating. So it's Caleb's favorite comic. So if you haven't read it yet, you gotta go read it and then listen to our roundtable on
I
it.
was about to say, if you want more information, we did an entire episode just on those 5 issues.
That's right. That's right. So next up is Obi-Wan and Anakin from 2016. The premise of that is that Obi-Wan and Anakin are stuck on an icy planet with a bunch of airships. There's like 2 factions on this planet sort of warring against each other, and the Jedi have to kind of be like mediators in the situation. And it's just a really neat look into Obi-Wan and Anakin's relationship before things go bad, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. If you ever wanted to see like steampunk in a Star Wars setting, this is the one for you.
That's a good way to describe it. It definitely has that vibe. Like there's like, you know, sort of cobbled together ships, and yeah, it's very cool. All right. Next up is Poe Dameron, which ran from 2016 to 2018. It's basically just a story about Poe and Black Squadron in the sequel trilogy era. We kind of go through a few different timelines here, and by timelines, I'm using that term very loosely because it does span a very short amount of time, like within the context of the entire saga. But we start out pre-Force Awakens, where Poe is it's pre-Force Awakens, right? I'm not mistaken in that.
Yeah.
Okay. For some reason I was like, oh, am I thinking of the age of
Rebellion or Resistance.
Resistance Poe. Yeah, okay. I should know this because tomorrow, if you're listening, I have a Poe Dameron guide video coming out. So I should know this pretty well by now. Anyways, so yeah, we get to see him and Black Squadron sort of coming together. And then, moving on, like later down in the series, it takes place in like some of, the Last Jedi timeline, where he meets Rey for the first time. So it's very interesting stuff. A lot of good character development, lots of good BB-8 moments. We love some good BB-8 moments. So there's that. And then arguably maybe one of the best canon comics, arguably, is Dark Lord of the Sith, which ran from 2017 to 2018. And this sort of takes place very soon after Revenge of the Sith, and we see Vader sort of getting used to his new suit and sort of like becoming Vader. Like how is he going to act as Vader? What are his roles? We see some cool stuff with Inquisitors and Jocasta Nu. Like, oh my goodness, crazy stuff there. And then we have, getting into some more recent times here, we have The Rise of Kylo Ren from 2020, which is kind of, you could call Kylo Ren's origin story. Sort of takes place in 2 timelines with Ben Solo and Luke going to on missions together. And then Kylo Ren in the present day. It kind of shows Ben and his relationship with some other Padawans. This has some of the earliest appearances of High Republic Easter eggs, so those are a lot of fun to find for sure. Next is Star Wars 2020. It's still running currently, and this is basically the fallout from the destruction. From this takes place between episodes 5 and 6, not 4 and 5. But so between episodes 5 and 6, and basically kind of dealing with the loss of Han Solo, the rebellion being sort of split up into a bunch of different places, and a big plot line is that they are unable to contact each other. The cells are unable to contact each other because the Empire's figured out the code, and then they can sort of track the other cells down. And it's very interesting to see just how much took place between episodes 5 and 6, because when you're just watching the movies, you just think, okay, like they regrouped him and then they found Han, but like there was so much more that happened. And honestly, this has been one of my favorite series. to read recently. It's just been a very interesting glimpse into these characters' mindsets, especially Leia, I have to say. Charles Soule, he writes a really good Leia, and her character after losing Han. Next we have we have a book. Let's throw in a book. It's very important. Light of the Jedi, written in 2021, New York Times bestseller, Light of the Jedi. The first book in the High Republic. OMG, it was amazing. If you haven't read it yet, what are you doing? But yeah, it really sort of set the stage for what this era is going to be, and sort of gave us the basis for who these characters are going to be. Characters that sort of follow us into all different types of books and comics. You know, we've got Avar and Burry. I mean, you could name any Jedi. It was probably in Light of the Jedi. So yeah, amazing stuff there from Charles in novel format. And then last up on the list here, War of the Bounty Hunters from 2021, still ongoing. It is the largest crossover event in Star Wars history, which crosses over between the Star Wars mainline, Dr. Aphra 2020, Bounty Hunters, Darth Vader 2020. And I think that's it. I did that off the top of my head.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And basically, it stars Boba Fett, and the premise is Han Solo in carbonite, of course, is lost. So it's not what you see in the movies. This is sort of like what I was talking about with Star Wars 2020. Like, if you're just watching the movies, it's like, okay, Boba Fett went right from Cloud City to Tatooine and everything was fine. But it wasn't fine. And we see that. And like we were talking about earlier with the news, Kira comes back. Oh my goodness, it's huge. And so yeah, a lot of interesting things happening here, and I can't wait to see how it ends. So that is everything that he has written to date. Of course, we have Crimson Reign coming soon, and possibly the third thing in his so-called trilogy. I assume he's going to be writing that, and he's probably going to be doing more High Republic stuff. I don't know when he sleeps, but man, he does a good job.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of great jobs, applause for Emma for just rattling off all of that.
Thank you.
Yes, there's a lot of I can't, while I was going through it, I don't know if anyone, like, at least in the modern era, who has done so many different series of like pure just comic, running through there. So yeah, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So yeah, what I would so just to kind of a quickest, now we've kind of overviewed all like 7-8 of these series here. Let's just do a quick gut reaction and kind of go around. Which one is your favorite series? I'll start. My favorite series
I wonder which one you're gonna pick.
Is Lando. His like as a
wow,
freshman,
shocker.
as his like freshman entry into Star Wars, like first thing he did for it, like he really kind of, I think he did a really smart thing, and he kind of did this might sound demeaning, but a very small story, a very focused story. So he could walk in there, kind of do a very easy sort of thing, and then kind of you use that to springboard and expand out from there. And like, it's been amazing seeing what he's done. And I will freely admit, I think Dark Lord of the Sith is kind of his, like, of this series so far, is like his crown jewel right now. It's been definitely like the highlight of what he'll be most famous for. But I'm excited to see what will supplant that.
Yeah, for sure. I'll go next. And so my gut reaction of my brain says Dark Lord of the Sith, because it is just such a solid comic all around. My gut reaction in my heart says Poe Dameron, because it was one of my first Star Wars comics that I ever read. And so I have very fond memories of it in that way. But also, it was just a lot of fun. Like, Poe Dameron, he's such an interesting character. The amount of character development that Charles Soule was able to incorporate into this series was amazing. And knowing more about Poe Dameron now, with Poe Dameron Freefall and some of the other content he's been in, it just really makes it that much stronger. And sometimes I think I think a lot of like flying stuff can be tough to do in comics, but you know, between the art and Charles's writing, it's really very well done. So that's what the gut reaction of my heart tells me to say. And then yeah, just to sort of go back to Caleb's thing, I just wanted to add this in. So I listen to Blast Points podcast, and they do a lot of like snippets of like advertisements and stuff. And when we were all saying like, oh, it's a surprise, you know, Caleb's picking Lando, there's a like an old Kenner toy ad where a kid says, surprise, surprise, Lando in disguise. And I really wanted to say that, but I didn't. So I had to say it.
That was worth it. That was absolutely worth it.
Yeah, for sure.
It's hard to pick from these titles. I mean, I think there's a reason why two of our of Utini's Foundational 5 are Charles Soule books, are comics. And I'm kind of torn with you there. Like from a story perspective, I think Darth Vader is obviously the go-to choice, but I'm going to kind of go a little bit of a dark horse here and go kind of against the grain. I really like the current Star Wars mainline. I really like choice. the emotions that they are showing with Luke and with Leia. Leia went through some really troubling times at in the first I think the first arc. No, I'm sorry, the second arc of the series,
the Will of Tarkin.
Yes, the Will of Tarkin, and I am very intrigued to see after today's issue of Star Wars, issue 16. I'm very intrigued to see how that goes, and I'm really liking seeing these sort of behind the scenes. We've seen all sorts of sides of these characters. I mean, we've loved them for 40 years. And to see them go through some tough times in this arc, it's been a lot of fun. And Darth Vader is great, Kylo Ren is great, Lando is great, but this one is just I grew up with those characters, and the more I can get from these characters that I haven't gotten before is what I really like. Jacob, what about you?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. That, I mean, honestly, if you ask me and like. Ask me when the end of the run is, when Star Wars 2020 is over, and it probably will be up there for me because I know the potential of where it can go, and it's pretty high. Also, the problem is that I'm looking at the list, and there's like 3 things that you could easily like pick for number 1 and be right. Like there's like so many ways you could go,
true.
And like. Honestly, Light of the Jedi stands up there for me, but I feel like it'd be sacrilege to pick that on this show today, so I'm gonna avoid that.
That's why I didn't pick it.
I felt the same way. Don't worry.
So we got Emma with Poe Dameron, Caleb, of course, with Lando, and Tyler with Star Wars 2020, which leaves me a tough choice of picking either basically Darth Vader or Kylo Ren. That's I mean, I gotta rep one of them. I mean, of course. No lost love for Obi-Wan and Anakin or War of the Bounty Hunters. Both great on their own. And I think I'm going to go with Rise of Kylo Ren. I think Darth Vader does a lot for the character, but I think I could have filled in a lot of those gaps on my own, maybe. Not as well, obviously, but like I still could have gotten there, like in my headcanon or whatever, where it's like Rise of Kylo Ren completely transforms a character that really needed the extra little bit of content to like properly frame them. So add in that with like the like really early seeding of like the High Republic, and like the second time it had ever been mentioned in text anywhere, and the first appearance of Avar. I think it was naturally a great book when it came out, but I think over time it's going to age even better, and I think I agree. Be deserving of my number 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with like literally any of these titles. Like you just can't, and it feels wrong to have to pick between them because they're all so good. But like, it's such a good problem to have, you know?
Yeah, when you're talking about Obi-Wan and Anakin as the least, or Poe Dameron as the bottom of the list, you have a very, very excellent list. This isn't like 1 through 7. This is like 1A through 1, whatever the 7th letter of the alphabet is. I think that's F. They're all equally great in their own way. But I think the thing that really makes them unique are the unique elements that Charles Soule brings to his writing. So Caleb, what is it that it really is Soule's special sauce, that really makes him stand out and makes all these books so memorable?
There's a couple of ingredients in the special sauce. Like most people's special sauce, it's mayonnaise and ketchup. Okay, just we're going to throw it out there. It's mayonnaise and ketchup. Okay, but
that's fair. Yes.
But like, if you want to do it, like his mayonnaise is world building. Like that's one thing that you mentioned with the Rise of Kylo Ren, of how it's going to keep getting better year after year, is that he does such a good job of incorporating and putting little teases and threads out into his novels, into his works, that he will go back later and tie into it. Like his first thing with, as I will bring up again, Lando, where there's a dark Sith artifact there that he didn't even bother paying off until 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing, and it's great that he's been given this opportunity. It's great that he knew that he's going to be around long enough, and that Disney and Marvel has given enough chances to really put it all together. So, I love that we have 20 different offers, it feels like, writing in Star Wars across all the television shows and comics and books. But it's great that they keep giving, this is my sports reference for today, to keep giving Charles Soule the ball, and he keeps getting touchdowns. He keeps getting through and getting first downs and getting, consistently great scores. So no, I think his world building is what really ties it together, and how much he cares about the universe and getting things connected. And he really does a good job with motivation. People get after I read one of his novels, one of his character studies, we know what they're going after. Like the Obi-Wan and Anakin story, that really sets up their master and apprentice angle a lot better. One thing was kind of teased at, and if you read a lot of the side story thing, it's that Anakin needed a father figure, but Obi-Wan was his older brother figure. And those are two kind of very different things. And this is kind of setting up how they view that sort of thing, of not necessarily master and apprentice in a really strict hierarchical sort of way, but that Obi-Wan is older and wiser, but he's not as strict with him as he probably should have been.
Yeah, I agree with your ingredients there. I'm going to add one, probably my favorite one of all, that I think he does best, and that's character development. I've already said that word a bunch, or I guess that phrase. I've already said it a bunch in this episode, but it's true. I'll give you the perfect example. Light of the Jedi. How did he make us care about all those Jedi in one book? How did he do it? It's because he made them human or alien. It depends on who you're talking about, but you know what I mean. Yes, relatable. There you go. So he just has a good way of doing it without making it obvious that he's trying to make the characters relatable. That's why I probably have Poe Dameron at my top, because we got to see Poe not as much. I mean, we certainly got him in action settings, but we also got to see what's going on inside his mind, and sort of, how he leads a team. And that certainly comes into play in the movies too. So if you see how he grows as a leader in the comics, and then you see how he leads people in the movies, you get a much more enhanced experience. And so, Rise of Kylo Ren, great character development. We had never seen Ben Solo except for a tiny, tiny snippet in The Last Jedi. And so he had nothing to work off of there. He did that all on his own. Darth Vader, going inside the mask and inside Vader's mind. What is he thinking in this suit? What an interesting premise. And he did it so well. It's not like you're working with facial expressions. I mean, comics is a visual media. And so you don't have Vader's facial expressions to sort of work that out. It was Soule's writing that really, really gave us the ideas of what Vader was going through. He makes us care about Lobot. I mean, my goodness gracious. Between Lando and Star Wars 2020, like I said, I think in the Lando roundtable, I said it sometime on
Mhm.
this show, and I'll say it again. Like when I watched The Empire Strikes Back when I was like 7 years old, I never ever thought I would care about that guy. But I do. And like that's just what Charles Soule does. He makes you care about things that you never thought that you would ever care about. And like that's a really special talent.
So if that's his mayo, right? We're saying that's the ketchup then in this amazingly visual reference that Caleb has. I'd almost say is well, so his mayo is the motivation, and I'd say that the ketchup is the world building, because the thing that makes Star Wars so great is that while it's science and spacey and sci-fi, it's dirty and it's lived in and it's real, and he does that by making it seem lived in, which is a very common, description for Star Wars. But he does it in such a unique way by using multiple items or locations or making you realize, oh, I've seen that before. I saw that mask in that Vader is talking to in Dark Lord of the Sith in the Lando book, and he does it without it being campy, because that's one of the biggest arguments is when you have the galaxy is so big, and but yet all the characters are all happen to be at it's so big at the same time it's so small because all the characters run into each other. Well, of course there are, because you don't have interesting stories if you don't have your characters. But he does it in a way that makes it really interesting, and it makes it more like of an Easter egg, like Elfrona, being mentioned in Rise of Kylo Ren, and it having a huge role in Light of the Jedi. Starlight Beacon, being featured in Light of the Jedi and having it casually referenced in Star Wars. Afra even was talking about Nihil technology and things of that nature. So, it's what makes it so cool for me is that it's that passing reference. It's not Starlight Beacon is the center point of Light of the Jedi, but when it's mentioned in Star Wars, it's not looked at in some awe and some. It's like, oh yeah, this place that was important. We as a reader know, and it's important to us, even though it's not necessarily as important to the to the characters, and that's what makes it so special, because by doing that, we become a part of the story, and we know things that the characters don't realize, and those are the moments that I think are the most fun. And he also uses, he even reuses, different people. Chanth Cha was in Vader and was in Lando. Now apparently is coming back in Crimson Reign. Papa Torin, who has appeared in both Lando and Poe. Verla was in both the Vader and the Star Wars 2020 books. So he uses these resources over and over again so that we know what they are and we feel familiar with it, but he doesn't do it to make it cheap. And it takes a very special talent to be able to do that and give the world the space that it has, while also keeping it small enough for us to realize, oh yeah, I remember that. Oh yeah, I remember that. And it's a really fascinating thing that he does.
Yeah, I think like one of the strengths, especially with like the characters that reappear, is how for the most part, it doesn't hold your hand as a reader. It's not like, hey, you remember this? Like in comics, it does it all the time. Where it's like, remember this character from Star Wars number 6 or whatever. Like I think he treats the reader as an adult. Like Verla. It's so easy to not know the Verlas in both. Like you could have read both these series and you could have forgot who Verla was, or like Chanth Cha. Like I read Lando, read Dark Lord of the Sith, read Lando again, and then like went back to the Wikipedia. I'm like, oh wait, this character is like Chanth Cha's been in other stuff before. Like it's very easy to like know these comics, know them well, and not like make the connections themselves. And I think it's kind of a fun exercise to, rather than it smacks you in the face with this connection, you kind of get to like grow and learn this world a little bit more as you read and as you reread.
And
yeah, and kind
it's
of you almost like grow with the characters sometimes. A lot of the characters don't even know who they're looking at, and you're like, wait a second, I've seen this person somewhere, and then you kind of find out with the character, and that's a lot of fun too.
exactly. It's not like he's punishing you for not knowing these characters. It's not
Right.
like he's
Right.
having like someone take off the helmet. And you're like, and there's like you can tell that it's supposed to be a dramatic moment, but you're like, okay, I don't know who this person is. So he doesn't like. He's not punishing you for not reading his other works. He's rewarding you for it. So that's always a really nice kind of positive step there.
Be Nasty in the chat says right now there are 48,000 tweets about Star Wars on Twitter right now, and a lot of that is because of Charles Soule. I mean, you know, and it's the interest that he brings about when it's not, we're not excited. It's not, yes, we're excited about the fact that we're getting a new comic, and we're also excited that the new comic is going to feature Kira, and we're getting a new comic that's written by Charles. It's all of those things together that make us excited. I can't, I mean, he's right. I can't sit here and say, unless it's George Lucas himself, anybody else as a writer who would be able to bring that sort of excitement to the Star Wars universe, especially in comics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, you know, it's easy to sort of make a throwaway comment that like the expanded universe right now doesn't get a lot of attention, but like at the same time, I mean, B Nasty's totally right. Like this is all because of him. You know, Charles Soule. It's really amazing to me, like how much comics in particular, books in general, are really catching on with the like general fan base. Like it's just amazing, and it's creators like Charles that make that happen, and it's really all due to them and the stories that they create, because they're interesting and they're fun and they add to the stories that we already know.
And he has a respect for the medium. I mean, he every single time he's interviewed, he talks about how much he loved it as a kid, and that is also a really important part, because we have faith in him. We have faith that he'll do it right, and that he knows what we need to hear. And I think B Nasty was also the one who says when he gets people's voices right, and as Caleb actually said in the chat, Caleb, why don't you say what you
Exactly,
said in the chat?
like I almost put it in when I was doing the show notes for the Lando. Like there are so many like points in like when he's writing Lando or Darth Vader or Han, like, or well, you know, Leia, like when you read the things and you can hear like Billy D. Williams or Carrie Fisher, you can hear their voices in your head when you're reading it. Like not only does he, like his dialogue is capturing the words for those people. So like when he says things, like it's like he obviously like rewatched the movies like probably like 10 times in order to get like the cadence right and the word choice right. He does a really good job at that.
Yeah, I mean, like one line from, I can't remember if it was Where Are the Bounty Hunters or Star Wars this week. Like one line from Lando comes to mind, and it's so Lando, it's so Billy D. Williams. I smiled when I read it. It was great.
Right. No, you're absolutely right, and it's such an amazing. I mean, I've said it before. I mean, kind of mirroring what you said, is what I enjoy the most out of his books are the emotions. You could feel the emotions that Anakin, I mean, I guess Darth Vader was going through in Dark Lord of the Sith. I love the story mixed with the artwork in Star Wars 2020 and all the emotions that Leia's going through. And that's what gets me, you know, excited about these books. And that's, you know, it takes a special person to be able to write it in this medium, write emotions, which is not, you know, something that you don't have a million words to do, and then marry that with an amazing artist to have both the book and the images and the words all fit so well together. And it's just a testament to not just him. I mean, we need to also remember that the artists in these books are also very important to his work and the ability for the two of them to work together.
Absolutely. He's worked with some amazing artists. I don't think there's a single one of his book that suffered from bad art.
No, absolutely not. So, but you know, as we move to look forward, you know, are there, Jacob, I'm gonna toss this to you. Are there are a couple of interesting settings or interesting things that he's kind of maybe only touched on once. You know, are there any things that you might want to maybe see revisited, or things that, you know, he's got a lot of things coming down the pipe that we're going to get into in just a moment. But is there anything that you might want to revisit or get a little bit more information about?
That's tough. I think, you know, Caleb has done a great job at providing some notes with some suggestions. I'm gonna pick out one here and espouse on it for a little bit, and that is, I didn't even remember the name of the planet, but it's apparently called Carnelian 4 from the Obi-Wan and Anakin's miniseries. I thought that was a very cool. We touched on briefly earlier how it has like a bit of a steampunk vibe. It's like a planet that has like gone to ruin, and there's a civil war on it, and people like can't escape the planet because of like atmospheric conditions. And it really reminded me a lot of, you know, since Jared's in the chat, it reminded me a lot of Dark Empire. I forget which one it was, but there's the one where like they like go through like a nebula or whatever and pop out on the other side, and there's like this spherical ball Jedi dude with like his steampunk ship. It's so bizarre, but it looks very cool with the Cam Kennedy art, and that kind of reminded me of this planet with just like the kind of like almost backwards technology in the galaxy far, far away. So I would love to see more of that. And they also, there's such a like, okay, because it's such a cool thing that it's especially I noticed a lot with the High Republic authors and Charles Soule specifically, is they love to like put Easter eggs to other things, and in that like they will like cross-reference their own projects all the time with Easter eggs, like so often. Like if you want to find High Republic Easter eggs and non-High Republic timeline stuff, just read anything written by any artist or any of the authors since like 2017, and there's gonna be at least one. So what I want to see is they like talk about it, how there's this person on the planet that calls a beacon to Obi-Wan or to like the Jedi. Obi-Wan and Anakin respond, and they called them because they had a perverted idea of what the Jedi actually do. Like they were like, I think it was like they like watched a Sith holocron and mistaked those for the Jedi, if I remember correctly. And
yes.
like, yeah, I'm like, just like I'm like, who was on the holocron? Like, like, is there a story there? Like, you know, in some other timeline, obviously. I would like to know. I think it'd be a cool setting to explore. And yeah, give me some of that.
Caleb, before we move on to the discuss the actual what he definitely has next, I do want to give you a moment, since we all know that Charles Soule loves Lando, and that Lando is your favorite comic. What do you want to see him do next with Lando? Because we've seen him do the short story, we've seen him do the comic miniseries. What is next for Lando and Charles Soule?
You know what? I think he should just be given free reign to write a novel about Lando. Like, I think it would be fun to see a novel like post Han Solo, like a recently like down on his luck Lando, and see like how he and Lobot like met up, see how their like tight friendship is created. Because like this sounds a little like cheap, but I feel like if at the start of this, Charles Soule was the only person who cared about Lando and Lobot's relationship. Like he's the only one who cared about it. So now that we all do, I would love to see him like see what he thought, where that came from, and you know what that did there. So like he should do like an entire, like, it doesn't even have to be comics. Like you could just do an entire novel about Lando, like prequel, postquel, just anything. Just give him all like 800 pages of Lando, and I'll be happy.
800 pages of Lando. That would be a lot of Lando. I love me some Lando,
and get Mark Thompson to do the audiobook, because I only do audiobooks.
Okay, well now I'm starting to buy into this a little bit more. So, well, he's obviously got some projects that we touched on coming soon. So Emma, what exactly? We've touched on the first one, so you can give just a short little synopsis for those that might have joined halfway through. But there are two. There's another project that he's also working on. So Emma, what does he have coming to us? It seems like in the next 6 months, I think.
Yeah, so this one I kind of totally forgot about it because of the news that we had earlier. So, in case you're joining us now or weren't with us at the beginning of the show, coming up very, very soon, actually next for him is Crimson Rain, which stars Kira and is about Crimson Dawn. It's part of a trilogy with, along with War of the Bounty Hunters and something TBD. And it's gonna be 5 issues with art by Stephen Cummings. Um, and honestly, it's just exciting. Like, uh, I'm so like I don't even have the words to explain how excited I am for this. The way that Charles was describing it in his interview with IGN was just it was so exciting. And he says that this is going to be a unique Star Wars story, and that we're not really expecting what's going to happen, and that's just really really exciting. So that's the first project, and then the second project is called Eye of the Storm. So we're going back to High Republic. This is a 2-issue miniseries which will come out in January, all about Martian Rowe. So I think this is going to be like his sort of origin story. And if there's anything I can say about Charles Soule is that he does a really good villain origin story. So
He likes bad boys.
Yeah,
he does it well. So I'm really looking forward to that. I mean, Martian Rowe is such an interesting character, and was honestly a lot of his intrigue was developed by Soule in light of the Jedi, and was built upon by other authors. And I'm just excited to see what he does with this, and I know it's going to be awesome. So yeah, both of these projects really looking forward to. And of course, he's still working on Star Wars, the 2020 series. War of the Bounty Hunters is still going on. So he's still busy. So if you want some Charles Soule, there's definitely some Charles Soule to go around.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, him and Kevin Scott. I feel like. Well, no, actually, I take that back. All of the New Republic, or the High Republic authors, seem to be churning out. I mean, Justina
Yeah.
Ireland's writing comics and writing
A manga.
the YA novel and the
Mhm.
manga, and you've got Claudia Gray writing. I don't think Claudia has written a comic yet, correct?
No, I do not believe.
No.
I think she's the only one. I'm not sure about Cavan either, but I feel like no, because Cavan is a huge Jackson fan. So
Yeah.
I don't know if he's actually written a comic or if he's just infatuated with with Jackson.
No,
But
he does a
I-
lot of adventures.
That's right. Okay, that's
He
what I
also-
was
Yeah,
gonna
he
say.
does a lot of these Star Wars adventures.
I felt like Cavan. So all of them have.
He also writes
have a
the main
ton.
High Republic series.
Yeah. So yeah.
I was like,
okay.
I don't know if I
Kevin
missed
Scott
the
writes-
prompt or something. I was like busy. I was like, wait, hold
Kevin
on.
Scott writes comics. So yeah, they're all. I don't. It's amazing how busy all of these authors are keeping themselves, and how high quality all of their works are. So we're kind of running up to towards the end of the show, so I want to kind of get everybody's closing thoughts of, is there a sequel or a follow-up or something that you would like to see? Kind of of what I asked Jacob a little earlier. What is something that you want a sequel for, or follow up to, or something that you want more of that hasn't been announced yet? I'm gonna go. I have a feeling I know where we're gonna go with this, but I'm gonna go back to Caleb here and ask and ask, what is it that you want?
Well, I already said one thing, so I think I'll go play a little bit against type here. In the first volume of Poe Dameron stuff, there's some wild kaiju fights between this giant egg monster of light and dark. I want to see him do that again. I want to see these him do something kind of wild and delve more into those giant creatures that are just to fight each other, and they're worshipped by underground cults. I go back to that, please. I don't need it, but I would like a little bit more. Yeah.
Let's get weird. I like it. Yeah, that was definitely a memorable. We're gonna leave it at memorable moment in that book. Emma, what about you?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go with something, maybe something that you wouldn't really expect, but So in Star Wars 2020, I don't remember the issue. I think it might have been multiple issues. I think it was probably in the second volume. Could be wrong though. They go to a museum on Coruscant.
Yeah, the Imperial Museum.
That was
Yeah,
part
I
of
want
Operation
more
Starlight.
of that. Yes, they were recovering the old droid.
I want to say it was
Yes.
like 8 through like 10,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So in those issues, they go to a Imperial Museum, and then to sort of tie back into that, like in Lando, in the Emperor's pleasure yacht, there's a lot of like artifacts in there. It's kind of a museum of its own, especially with Sith stuff. So I really want to see something about like who collects these artifacts. Like I know that there's archaeologists and we got Dr. Afra, but like is there a museum curator that like goes around and says, okay, we're gonna like, organize it by species. I don't know. Like I want to know how these things work. It's like it was so interesting to me in both of these comics. Like it just stood out to me when it came on the page, like, oh, there's like a museum with like a ton of stuff from all these different worlds, all these different species, all these different cultures. And I want more of that. I want more.
I like
Maybe
that.
a High Republic museum. That'd be cool.
There you go. All right, Jacob, we'll come to you.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to go to a place very similar as Emma, but taking a different direction. And I was also thinking about that arc, the Operation Starlight, and actually about the museum heist as well. But I really liked the story of Kes Dameron and the Pathfinders. So it's like a somewhat like elite like ground unit, like a small team that is part of the rebellion, and they're supposedly the team that Han leads on Endor for like the shield bunker raid. So
yeah,
I think so I think a like really cool like a war story, like a like a Vietnam type, like here's this like almost like a Bad Batch story in a way of this like elite group that is like behind enemy lines and doing the missions that no one else will do. I think that would be like give me like a 5-issue miniseries that maybe like leads up to Shattered Empire. Just throwing it out there. I think would be a lot of fun. Yeah, I would like to see more of that group. I love Needle, R.I.P. Needle. But
F's for Needle.
F's in the chat for Needle. He died. He absolutely died.
Yes, he absolutely died. So I am going to. We mentioned how Soule does a great job with writing villain origin stories, and I was very fascinated with both times that this character was brought up in the two books. And I, as a dark side fan, I guess you could say, I want a Lord Mormon. I won't be too jealous or too greedy. I'll just say miniseries, but I want to know more. We got a little bit of an origin in Dark Lord of the Sith, but I want more from that world. I want to know everything there is about his character, because I thought he was fascinating, and the fact that he still has that much power and kind of it was able to center it. There's a lot of other science fiction, Harry Potter sorts of Horcrux elements. The fact that he's got his essence in that mask, but I want to know all about it. I want to know his rise. I want to know why he's, decided to put it into the mask. That's a character that I want to know more about. So, all right. Well, Charles Soule, we thank you. On behalf of not just the Cosmic Force, but the entire Utini community, we thank you for everything that you have provided to the Star Wars fan universe, and will continue to provide, because you're knocking it out of the park, and it's really awesome to have your talents and the whole High Republic team working on things. So that is going to do it for this show, but a announcement before we sign off tonight for next week's show. Since we forgot to do it last week, we are making the announcement now, and it's in big bold letters for me to read this time. Next week's episode will be a roundtable for the Mutiny at Mon Cala trade paperback, and that is the Star Wars 2015 line trade paperback number 8. That is Leia there in her amazing hero pose with.
Can,
I mean,
can I
that's
throw
just
something in here really quickly?
Absolutely.
Okay, so this was at my request, because this is one of my favorite volumes of Star Wars like ever. That is my favorite Star Wars comics art ever. That cover there with the hero pose. I love this so much. I can't wait to talk about it. It's gonna be fun.
Exactly.
I have never read this far into the 2015 line. I've read the.
Oh, really?
I think I've got the first 3 trade paperbacks.
This is
over
like
here
where
in
it
my
gets like really good.
Yeah. So
Yes.
I'm gonna have to my OCD is gonna have to set aside for a little bit because I can't get all the trade paperbacks leading into that. I'm just going to jump right into it. But I am very excited because Emma, your excitement is so spontaneous about this. I mean, I think this is even leading back to before we even actually had our first show.
That's
like
correct.
the image of this is in our opening, and that's how long we have been waiting to discuss this book.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is true. I've had a deep love for this, like, since the moment I read it. Just something resonated with me so much about it. I can't wait for you to read it, Tyler, and for everybody out there to read it. Please read it. It's awesome. I love it.
Absolutely. And it's almost, and it's, you know, kind of tied one into one with what some events of a story to happen in Dark Lord of Sith.
That's true.
So if you read that one, you'll be surprised
Even
by
more
what you
reason.
see here.
Even more reason to read it. So yes, that will be next week's episode. So be sure to pick it up at your local comic store or find it on Marvel or on Marvel Unlimited or Comixology or wherever it is that you get your comics.
I'll even read it to you. I'll send you an audio message. I'll read it to you.
That is our next Patreon goal, is Reading Nights with Emma, where she leads us through her favorite Star Wars books. But until then, that is going to do it for this week's episode of The Cosmic Force. Don't forget to subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts, and that includes tuning in right here on every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. on YouTube to hear us live. You can also visit utini.com for reviews, articles, and news for the entire expanded universe, whether it's Bad Batch recaps or comics news or book excerpts. Our news team knocks it out of the park and is always on top of all the latest expanded universe news. We also invite you to join our Utini Discord community by going to utini.com/Discord and join in on many of the amazing and fun and positive conversations that we have going on at all times of the day. If you want to support the show, you can find us at patreon.com/Utini and start receiving exclusive perks starting at just $5 a month. And again, another reminder, we do have our upcoming Patreon exclusive event this Friday, where Timothy will be hosting a Trivial Pursuit with our hosts from the Living Force. So there's still time to get in to be able to see that. A special thank you to OK Endar, Cheryl Bell, Patrick Ortiz, and Carl Sander on our Jedi High Council, as well as Kyle Hickman, Elizabeth Cloutier, Jason Mitchell, Freddie C., and Sally and Chris Eilerson on our Alliance High Command for your continued amazing support. Be sure to tweet at the show at Cosmic Force Show or at each of us hosts individually. I'm at Ty Rags, Emma is at Irma Jedi 26, Caleb is at Caleb Lamanik, and Jacob is at Jacob Bosch. Thank you again to my co-host for being with me tonight. Thank you for all of you that were in the chat tonight, and thank you for listening wherever and whenever you are in the future on our podcasting platforms. Until we see everybody next week, may the Force be with you.